Well, first of all, Nigel, on Boxing Day, I think it was 16 teams who didn't get to play. How did that impact your preparations for the games you do have coming up against QPR and Millwall?
More than anything, I think it's just it doesn't affect the preparations for the next game, but it was, I suppose it's just a little bit annoying. But at least we had fair warning, so it wasn't as if our fans travelled. We'd done prep work for it, but I'm afraid with the if you like, the protocols that the EFL have introduced, I suppose it's just opened up the risk of a late cancellation. And that's really, I think, those are the ones which are more difficult for people to deal with, because it means fans and teams have travelled themselves, and, around Christmas time as well. That's, that is an added irritant, I think, and it's very, very unfortunate.
COVID is impacting football, and I'm sure it's had a major bearing on City's financial results that came out today. I think pre-tax losses of £38.4 million. How do figures like that impact you as the manager of Bristol City Football Club?
Well, look, I've been aware of exactly where we are, where we sit for a while. So it's not. I think it's just, how does it impact on me? Well, look, it just means that we have to be very mindful of how we manage the situation, and I suppose in some ways managing people's expectations is always going to be one of the most difficult things, especially when we're trying to go through a period where we've had a lot of change, both in terms of the management in sort of my position over the last 2 years. On top of that, a squad which, as I've said many times already, we had a lot of players coming out of contract, and it's time of change. But what we can't factor in is the impact that the pandemic's had, in terms of, I don't think anybody envisaged when the COVID situation first sort of hit us back in March of 2020, that we would still be sitting here now nearly in 2022, and we're still dealing with current outbreaks and quite difficult situations. So look, it's the bigger picture for football is that there are going to be some tough times ahead for many clubs. What we have to do here is try and manage a way through that situation, but do it in a way which we are transparent with what's happening, because I think that's important for our fans. But we still want to give them hope that we'll come out of it okay. So financially, it's I've known the situation all along, really. So it doesn't really. It may constrain how we actually manage to rebuild the squad, but we'll do it in a way which is in the best interest of everybody, because the most important thing is that we keep going as a football club and give our fans some hope moving forward. But we're under no illusions; it's going to be tough.
Richard Gould's statement referenced the fact that City in the past have been good at trading players. Yeah. Might you have to sell players to improve those figures for next year?
Well, that's always a possibility, and that's a possibility. It's always something that, as a manager, you're always aware of that anyway. We're not actively looking to sell our most talented prospects, of course. But we also have to be, and I think our owners would be, their vision for how we shape the club moving forward is that we have homegrown players. That's one of our main aims as a football club is to produce players for us, not necessarily for other teams. But the realistic outlook on the same question would be that we'll have to make sure that the decisions that we make regarding players is done for the interest of us as a football club. So it's of course it's a possibility.
And in terms of strengthening the squad, how do you have to be smart in the transfer market when it's not just Bristol City, but money's tight, isn't it? You're not going to go and sign a £10 million striker in January.
I think if you look at my track record right the way through being a manager, I'm not somebody who goes out and spends money without having doing due diligence. So clearly, I think I've been quite open about this for a while. I don't envisage us going out there and spending fortunes, and that's why the January window is a difficult one, of course, because you don't necessarily get the value for money, and we've already reduced the wage bill considerably this season. But I do still think that the squad is making progress. It's probably not at the rate that we would all like, and certainly, it's been a tough first half of the season. We think that we should be in a better position than we are, but we're not. So you just have to get on with that. Again, my view on strengthening a side is not collecting players. It's about you only replace players if you can considerably improve what you've got. And that's the reality and that's the best way, in my opinion, to build a side. And that is not to be reactive to situations. Yeah, there are occasions that will be a necessity to get extra bodies in. But, I think at the moment our availability has been pretty good this season. Again, I do recognise that how our public look at where we are might be slightly different, but to improve on certain areas of our squad is going to cost an awful lot of money. So at the moment we're not well placed to be able to do that, and we have to be very mindful of the bigger picture, and that is that the losses that we've announced today, are ones that we have to be acutely aware of how we manage not just the present, but the future as well. And that is, that's part and parcel of my job as well, is to have a responsibility and accept a responsibility for that situation.
You played QPR, I think it was their first game in 22 days last night. They lost narrowly to Bournemouth. What do you expect from Mark Warburton's side, who are just below, I think, the playoff zone at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, they've just dropped out. I think Huddersfield took their place, and Mark's sides are always good sides. And casting our minds back to the game that we played at their place earlier in the season. A difficult game, one which we could have lost. I mean, we came out with 3 points on the day, which was reward for a lot of hard work and two really clinical counter-attacks. But I did also recognise on another day that result could be very, very different. So, I mean, we know it will be. It's a tough fixture, but I also know that our players at the moment seem very, very upbeat. We have, we don't really have too many availability issues, which is positive for us too. So, I mean, 2 home games coming up. We need to try and get maximum points out of them. Whether we do or not is another thing. But with the being games not being played, and hopefully ours is played. But again, I don't make any assumptions. I mean, our squad are pretty well protected, but that doesn't mean that they won't become infected with COVID. It just means they've got a better chance of recovering quicker. So look, we have to expect any eventuality, and that's one of the most difficult things about preparing when there's a level of uncertainty. But I know that we want to play, and I think QPR will be very keen to play too. So, yeah, it will be a tough game, but one that we're looking forward to.
And one of the highlights of the season was NIKKI Wells' late winner at QPR.
Yeah.
I remember that sea of red celebrating his win. It's been his only goal of the season. How do you get more goals out of NIKKI going into the new year?
Well, NIKKI's not had many opportunities, and that's the bottom line. And whether he gets one in this game, you'll have to wait and see. But I have no qualms about playing NIKKI. I think he's been really positive around the place. He's we know he's a good finisher. So, but what we need more than anything is a sound team performance against QPR, and we need to be able to show that clinical touch at both ends of the pitch, and that's something that let us down against Huddersfield. We've scored 2 goals at home and still ended up losing. So I mean, it's that was a frustrating day for us. But no, I mean it's we need goals throughout the team, and it's not just about the strikers contributing. I think we need more goals from midfield, and we certainly need more goals from our defenders from set plays too. So it's about being able to win games, and it doesn't matter who scores really. But of course, strikers always measure themselves very much with their goal tally, and that's a sign of strikers who enjoy scoring goals. That's what it's about.
Thank you, Nigel. Have a good week.
Yeah, cheers. You too.
Afternoon, Nigel.
Hey, Sam. You okay?
On the loan market ahead of January, how do you see it? Do you see that there are good deals to be had in the loan market, or is it a situation where...
What deals are they then? What loan deals are good?
Well, just let me finish my question. Just so, yeah. Do you see that there is good deals to be had, or theoretically, is it harder to get those players because it's more competitive if clubs looking to recruit cheaper, and also with the COVID situation, clubs maybe wanting to keep slightly bigger squads? Do you see that being harder? Because obviously, with the financial figures in mind, you might have to recruit in that sort of way more than you'd like to, perhaps, when you talk about developing your own players.
Well, your question's very, very complex, and I think it doesn't really reflect what the reality of the situation is. So to get players who are better than what we've got on loan is going to be hard, or it's not going to be affordable. And the reality is that I think many football clubs will decide to keep hold of their extra players, their excess players, just to protect themselves in terms of if they get an outbreak themselves. But you've got to remember that you don't get loan players from Premier League clubs and they cost nothing. You're probably going to get players, some players with an unproven track record, who earn more than the players that we currently have here. So it's not. I think everybody's assumption is that just because we're talking about that, there might not be an opportunity to add permanent deals and go out and buy players. They automatically just think loan players just fall off trees, and that doesn't work like that, because they've got to be the right players for us. They've got to be the right players, and yeah. It doesn't just work like, well, is the loan market, is that going to be important? The loan market's always important, but I would prefer, wherever possible, to bring players in who are going to be our players.
That's the reason I asked, because it's about managing those expectations, I guess. This is probably the hardest window ever to recruit in, is it not?
I don't know. I don't know. It could be. It could turn out to be a bit easier. I don't know. But I'm not being reactive to what the market situation is. I'm very clear, and our board are very clear. We've been working towards this window as we do every window, with a measured approach, and it's not going to be. It's going to be either we can secure the people that we've talked about bringing in, or we can't, and it's as simple as that.
Finally, just for me, Joe Williams, does he continue to train independently?
No, he's trained with us this morning. He's trained very well, so he's making really good progress. Yeah.
Do you have a target date in mind for him to come back into contention?
Not at the moment, no. But he will hopefully be back with in terms of being available for selection in January. Yeah.
And obviously he's had a very frustrating time at the club. Impressed when he's got the chance to play, but had sort of these recurring problems. Do you feel that the programme that he's undergone this time has prepared him well, hopefully to not have those durability issues that have sort of robbed him the playing time he wants?
Well, time will tell with that, quite frankly. So it's one thing to treat injuries. It's a totally different thing to have the underpinning durability and robustness that you need. And clearly he's had his injury issues since he's been here. And so it's even more important that at the moment he works as hard as he can to be not just available again, but to stay available again. And that's one of the main reasons that I'm very reluctant to put any time span on it, because there's going to be I don't want to force him under pressure to be available when he's not quite right. I'd rather wait another week if I need to. So that's where we are with it. We'll be as sensible as we can, but it's there are no guarantees.